Hi, welcome to our channel of IGNOU Audiobooks, Indira Gandhi National Open University, School of Translation Studies and Training, SOTST, Master of Arts, Translation Studies, Maths, English, First Year, MTT 010 Theories of Translation, Block-1 Translation, Concept and Importance, Unit-3 Significance of Translation in Indian and Global Perspectives, 3.0 Objectives. After reading this unit will be able to understand expansion, areas and aims of translation, reasons for the relevance of translation, role of translation in the study of comparative literature, role of translation in national and global development. 3.1 Introduction. It will not be an exaggeration if the present era is called the era of translation. Today, the role of human being has become paramount in understanding world culture and bringing it closer. This task has been made very easy in the translated texts of world literature. And due to the progress in the field of traffic and information technology, the process of meeting people and talking to each other have started on a large scale. In this too, the support of translation is taken in various fields at the business level. This process continues even today. Man wants to know about the food and information in his own language while on the bed. Translation can be the only support for this. This proves the significance and necessity of translation in a multilingual country like India. In this era of globalization, there is hardly any area of life where translation is not understood useful. Therefore, looking at the time, it has become necessary to consider translation and its significance in the context of development of new resources and widespread human relations. 3.2 Expansion, area and aims of translation. Translation is a technology developed with human civilization that has come into existence only to coordinate between different languages. Human society is growing in the direction of understanding each other and not coming, and translation is playing an important role in crossing the boundaries to overcome this obstacle. Translation that overcomes this linguistic barrier has a healthy tradition in the voices of the East and the West. It is believed that about 3,000 years ago, King Sargon of Algeria got the announcement of his victories translated into different languages. For 500 years before Christ, the oldest translation of the Jewish people explaining the discourses in the language by translating them into the language of the Jews was found on the stone around 200 BC. It is about 1000 AD and contains an account of history and culture into ancient Egyptian scripts, hieroglyphic and Deantic, and also has a translation into ancient Egyptian language. Bible translations first appeared on a wide scale. Plato's works were translated. During the urban period, a large number of Greek classics were translated into European languages in Europe. The New Testament of Bibles were also translated in French, English, Dutch, German, etc. languages. In 1522, Martin Luther published a German translation of the Bible called New Plans. Through this work, Luther not only gave a precise form to the German language, but also clearly emphasized the intelligibility of the translation. The Western tradition of translation in ancient Indian literature is almost unavailable. The reason for this is that our ancient literature was very rich. The Bhashya tradition of literary, philosophy and scriptures was developed from the beginning. So we can consider it as a complete method like translation. In countries like Arab and China, Indians must have been translated into their own language. Going forward, in the era of cosmic Sanskrit, interlinguistic, interlingual and intersymbolic translations are found in sufficient quantity, which are of measurable nature only. Many texts of Prakrit were also translated into Sanskrit. In modern times, many world-famous works were translated into Sanskrit and Indian languages, while many Indian works were translated into other languages of the world. Modern era is the era of communication revolution and information technologies. The relevance and utility of translation in this context is unquestionable today. The way continuous progress is going on in the fields of knowledge science and technology, the whole wide world is shrinking literally when the world has gone by 1 unit. In such a situation, waiting is required. To know who did what, who wrote what, and a new incident happened, everything is possible only through translation. Through this, the ideas, research work, political movements, sociocultural ideologies of other countries are received. Because a person can speak at most a few languages, he cannot understand all the languages of the world. That's why translation has become an essential part of today's life. Mankind, divided in far-flung boundaries, has remained close today through translation. Many endangered languages are getting rebirth through translation. In the last 50 years, there has been a vast change in every area of our standard of living. Revolutionary changes have taken place in every field like education, science, technology, media, communication, tourism, etc. Our needs change. With this, there has been a radical change in our lifestyle. New discoveries of material comforts have made our life meaningful. In this changing era, there has also been development in the field of translation. Earlier, translation was mostly used, gradually increasing its scope, national integration, cultural development, comparison, cheap, business, technology, information technology, administration, law, justice, knowledge science, humanities, site, tourism, international, conference, office, bilingual, etc. has become necessary everywhere. That's why here the field of translation has been kept into forms: literary sector and non-literary sector. 3.2.1 Literary sector. Being a social animal, language is the basis of the interactions that humans make with others. Human beings have the unique power of linguist and perceptiveness. Language is the medium of exchange of ideas. Man creates many scriptures to provide stability to sociality through language. The adjective creative has been added to it to underline the intended form of literature. Creative literature refers to all that empower and refine literature, in which fiction, novel, story, drama, one-act play, epic, essay, sketch, travelogue, reporting, autobiography, free verse, poetry and memoirs, etc. are included. In the modern era, the interest of the people of the world to get the contemporary literature towards the literature of other languages is increasing. Man is dreaming of the realization of Vishwamanav's worldwide accessible human being imagination of world literature. That's why today the demand for literary translation is increasing all over the world. In the context of literary translation, it is very important that the German poet and dramatist developed the idea of world literature after reading the translation of My Leader. This Tulsi's, Ramcharitmanas, Premchand's Godan, Vibhutibhushan's Patha Panchali were translated into European language. The world's thinking got a new direction only because of the translation of the texts written by Marx in German language. In the same way, when the translation of Das Kapital was published in the languages of the world, then only the truthfulness of Viswabharati was propagated. Similarly, Subramaniam Bharati became known at the national level only through translation. Language can reduce the distance by breaking the walls. 3.2.2 Non-literary sector. The knowledge of man's acquired and accumulated knowledge is available in the form of pain-oriented and knowledge-oriented literature. Emotive use of language is related to literature pertaining to creative literature, while knowledge text, which is related to different literature, is related to the field non-literary sector. Under the field of non-literary sector comes science, space science, technology, legal justice, administration, republic, humanities, social science, commerce, packing, industry, business, art, advertising, computer problem, media, etc. Non-literary translation is useful for the intellectual development of an enlightened human being, while translation of creative literature is important and useful for enriching and refining its extremes. Both these types of literature have a special place in human life. Translation in these two directions has special importance for human beings. 3.3 Reasons for the relevance of translation. Translation is such a medium through which we can get acquainted with the environmental, life, culture, literature, thinking, ideology, etc. of any country. In this direction, translated works of Indian and world literature are promoting socioculture. Due to the development of information science, fast means of transport and technology, mutual contact with people from all over the world has increased. In addition to knowledge science, the relevance of translation has increased in the field of business, entertainment, and tourism. Many international organizations like United Nations, UNESCO, world multinational companies, national and international advertisements, and fields like Commonwealth, etc. Translation has become essential for various programs like news, advertisements, serials, etc. in the media. Apart from these, the translated forms of dialogues and screens of the film are also being known, due to which people speaking other languages are also getting more attracted to it. Now, instead of being a normal work, translation has been linked to national identity and service work. Translation is a bridge which connects us to the wider literary world by realizing the concepts of literary exchange, emotional unity, language richness, comparative study, national harmony. There are many reasons why translation is relevant in this era of globalization. Here are the major reasons which are being discussed in brief. 3.3.1 Sociocultural coordination. The civilization and culture of all the human societies of the world are not completely same. Not only this, where the civilization and culture of the society of the same country are also found to be different, it is not unusual to have diverse civilizations and cultures in different nations because of the difference in place, time, environment, beliefs, language and culture, etc. Society has its own distinct civilization and culture. In the context of India only, the civilization and culture of Tamil, Telugu, Malayalam and Kannada language-speaking societies are reflected, but it is not visible in Marathi, Gujarati, Bengali and Hindi language-speaking societies. There is definitely more or less difference in these. In the same way, the civilization and culture of English, Chinese and Russian society, German and Japanese society and Portuguese society are often found to be different. Their languages are also completely different, but today people of these different societies are familiar with each other's civilization and culture. The important reason for this is translation. Through translation, it becomes easy to get acquainted with the civilization and culture of other society. Whether it is rural or urban, regional or urban, indigenous or foreign. In a multilingual nation, society is introduced to each other's civilization and culture only through translation. The introduction of each society to the other society's cultural ideas, food, ritual and festival, fasting, worship, recitation, costumes and social rules and regulations is possible only through translation. Every country has a long tradition of translation with a view to establish and coordinate with foreign society and culture. In this context, translations of Indian texts have played a special role in the spread of Buddhism and Indian culture in Asia. It was through this that Indian religion and philosophy spread in the countries of the Far East and Southeast, and the translation of Indian texts influenced Arabic culture. On the other hand, Arabic culture also influenced Indian culture. The civilization, culture and society of any nation is often represented by the literature of that nation. It is only through literature that culture and other society can be understood only through its translation. In the context of our country, we can take Ramayana and Mahabharata by reading which people of other country or society can coordinate with our ancient civilization and culture. Similarly, Premchand's Godan is a living document of pre-independence Indian farmer's life, which foreigners can read and understand the civilization and culture of that time only through translation. Today, the spread of communication media is bridging the distance between countries and influencing each other through social and cultural activities and exchanging them among themselves. In such a situation, it would not be unfair to say that translation is an important means of sociocultural coordination. 3.3. Bridge of national and social unity. National and social unity is an essential requirement of the present times. In a multi-provincial nation like India, it is natural to find diversity in them due to the presence of many language-speaking people. Due to different caste class, occupation, language and region, diversity is reflected in our place rather than unity. Because of this diversity, big controversies have arisen many times in our nation. Freedom has been lost. Needless to say, our nation has been harmed by this. As a result, today it has become our need to promote national and social unity by establishing unity in diversity. From Kashmir to Kanyakumari, translation is most useful in the development of the understanding of the stream of unity that flows in the midst of diversities surrounded by different language speakers. Translation frees the Indian public from attachment to Swabhasha and narrow feelings like regionalism and communicates a high sense of unity and equality among them. The tradition of literature composed in Indian languages inaugurates the fact that basically all languages have emotional unity. While Goswami Tulsidas wrote Ramcharit-Manas in North India, Shankardev in Assamese, Kamban in Tamil, Laram Das in Odia, Eknath in Marathi, Bhanudatta in Nepali and Echan in Malayalam were also glorifying Rama with their pen. Similarly, where Surdas portrayed Krishna's Balla Leela and Ras Leela in North India, Kanaka Das in Kannada, Chandidas in Odia, Jagannath Das Bangla, Narsi Mehta in Gujarati, and Potanna in Telugu were also extolling the glory of Krishna. People of one region can understand the society, literature and culture etc. of another only through translation. Only translation can bridge the distance between them. With this, the rift of linguistic diversity can also be ended. Emotional unity helps to protect humanity, welfare of mankind and promotion of tolerance, which is possible through translation. Dr. Rajendra Prasad's statement is APT translation became an extraordinary bridge to bridge the gap created by division and for the emotional and national integration of different cultures. Through translation, mutual culture can be understood in every society and nation. Due to this, the feeling of love in each other grows and becomes stronger. Dr. Shankar Dayal Sharma is of the opinion that through translation, we will open the way to understand each other's culture by making the literature of one language available in another language. This will strengthen the emotional and national unity of the country. The implication is perversely clear that the relevance of translation as a bridge to strengthen emotional unity at the national, international and social level and establish it and connect it to social utility is extraordinary. 3.3.3 Prestige and dissemination of human values. The credit for making a human in true sense goes to those lofty values, through which he is living his virtuous life. In fact, any nation is evaluated only on the basis of the moral values of its people and society. Every nation has a traditional culture, which is created on the basis of the values that the great men adopted in their lives. In fact, because of those values and through them only, his character and personality has been written in golden letters by becoming beautiful. The physical progress of any country is also important, but physical progress can be called the body of that country, whereas there are only human values that communicate the vital element in it. This makes the importance of human values of any person, caste, society, country and nation clear. The main objective of human value is human development, human progress and human interest. In fact, human values are an important element of human progress and well-being. Translation is an important source for the prestige and dissemination of this human value. In the Indian context, Mahabharata and Ramcharitmanas are the texts that glorify human values. But their language is Sanskrit and Avadhi. If today's person does not know these two languages or if a foreigner wants to read it, he will not be able to read it. This is what translation is needed for. Today Mahabharata and Ramcharitmanas have been translated into many languages, due to which Indian human values are being integrated abroad. Similarly, the Bible has been translated into most of the languages of the world. The Quran has also been translated into many languages of the West. For Buddhist philosophy, the propagation of religion has been fruitful only through translation. Today Buddhism has been widely spread in China, Sri Lanka, Japan and East Asia. Similarly, today the prestige of Krishna's characteristic values is seen not only in India but in the whole world. If Sursagar had not been translated, then perhaps Surdas would not have become so popular all over India. Establishing human value on this vast surface is necessary for the development of human being, no doubt, but for the fulfillment of this purpose one has to resort to translation. Today, translation is the only tool that can be used in different countries for the prestige and dissemination of human values in every corner of the world. 3.3.4 Modern Ideological Exchange. In ancient times, translation was limited to creative literature, but today translation is a part of our daily life. The exchange of ideas of literary and cultural heritage to different nations has happened only through translation. The usefulness and relevance of translation is very important for today's ideological exchange. In order to prove the universality of the history of Indian literature composed in different languages of India and also to convey its new ideas to others in that context, one has to take the support of translation. Translation has proved to be effective in changing human cognitive and affective sensibilities in the world, whether it is a matter of change in social or political ideology from the consciousness of ideological exchange or in modern renaissance to develop our knowledge and consciousness from the new epistemology of the West. There is something to be done today. The state-of-the-art research is being done in the country and abroad can be spread only by translating its conclusions, values, nation-specific concepts and concepts for the benefit of the human community and the general public. Due to translation, one country has started knowing the cultural, social, intellectual, geographical and political ideas of another country. Through translation, intellectual and emotional closeness is increasing in two countries, ideas are being exchanged, contacts are increasing, and it is possible to reach each other's conscience and to be involved in each other's happiness and sorrow. Today, in any corner of the world, in any country, if there is an outbreak of flood, epidemic, tsunami, and many other bad events like earthquake, the help that is provided immediately from other countries, it is the success of translation because the affected countries the news of the condition can be known in all the countries of the world only through translation. The Egyptian revolution which lasted for 18 days and in which so many people came out on the streets against President Mubarak and got full support from other countries outside the country, was also told through translation in all the countries through news channels. Certainly, translation is an important means of bridging the distance between people. 3.3.5 Exchange of knowledge, science and technology. Translation work has been started for the purpose of exchange. Cooperation and symbiosis. Exchange is necessary for the cream of every society and nation. We can benefit from the benefits of input only when we can provide. The exchange of modern material of knowledge, science and technical technology is possible only through translation. Today's era is the era of knowledge, science, technology and technology. No country can move forward without it. The increasing needs of knowledge and new researches have made important efforts towards making human life comfortable, and the ever-advancing technology and research development has given a multifaceted form to the legislation. In the whole world, the growth in the field of knowledge, science and the latest information etc. is known only through translation in other languages. Being acquainted with the knowledge store of others, our thinking gets enlightened and matured. That is why, as a result of the need for mutual exchange of this knowledge, science and technical technology, the importance of translation has become universal and universally accepted. There is a great need of this type of translation in developed and developing countries. Developed countries have made a lot of progress in this direction. Work has already started here too. Scientific translation in foreign languages, Indian in own country languages, and there is a possibility of doing it in English. In this, the scientific and technical information expressed in the source language is transferred to the target language in such a way that the information of the original is not destroyed even in translation. Scientific and technical translation has become the foundation of modern knowledge science. In this type of translation, what is more important than how? The interest of the scholars remains limited only to the information, concepts and facts given in it. In some areas, India has been leading in the field of science and technology. In many countries, India had taken the lead in the publication of science journals. The Vedas have given the basic elements of chemistry in the discussion of metals like gold. India pioneered the Arabs in mathematics in the form of the invention of numbers and the decimal system. Astrology, astronomy, geology, medicine etc. are spread all over the world through translation. They kept changing through the ages and today they are coming to us translated. Only through translation can we understand global technology, technicality and scientifically. 3.4 Globalization process and significance of translation. The discussion of globalization as the new world order is being heard all around. Today the world is turning into a world village. The world is shrinking. Globalization remains the center of today's social, economic and political discussions. The process of globalization is related to the functional integration of various economic activities spread across the world. This global integration of national economies taking place in the field of production, consumption and trade of goods is related to the processes of economic transactions across the geographical boundaries of different nations of the world and their type of management and organization of economic activities. Liberalization is adopted in the process of globalization. Economic reforms such as privatization in the form of liberalization, reduction of government controls, reduction of government expenditure, reduction of control from industries, simplification of licensing procedures and increase in the competitive ability and efficiency of industries by encouraging competition are included. Translation itself is a process of globalization. It is not only limited to the economic sphere but also a process of integration at the social, cultural, political and above all at the emotional level. Translation is a unique bridge of linguistic integration of different cultures. It is a psychological imperative for human beings. Translation reveals the Advait, non-dualism, of human consciousness. It helps human consciousness to establish natural unity in the difference existing due to economic, political, socio-cultural, etc. reasons. Today translation work is being done in various branches of knowledge science like literature, philosophy, science, etc. Modern and updated knowledgeations gets pulsed through translation and reaches to other language speakers. In such a situation, it is not an exaggeration to say that even if there is scientific research, in the absence of translation, the world would not have been like a village, a family. That's why translation is that infallible weapon which gives true meaning to globalization. In globalization, there is a sense of seeing the world market in a single region. But where different national regional languages hinder its path, translation plays the role of a bridge between different languages and demolishes linguistic walls. If globalization is a means of erasing the distances of country and time for business, then translation is the means of giving concrete form to it. There is a solution to mutual communication despite the prevailing linguistic differences in societies at various levels such as global, regional, national, regional, etc. Translation is the imperative of today's globalized era. The consumer culture, which is flourishing due to consumerism, is flourishing through mass media and translation is taking an important dimension in it. Translation is used for bus schedules. This translation is clearly visible to us in the form of ebbing, subtitling and bus and etc. Hindi broadcasts on Discovery Channel, Cartoon Network and Pogo Channel etc. are examples of vernacular translations. Similarly, foreign films like Titanic, Jurassic Park and Anaconda have reached the Hindi audience. In this era of globalization, advertising is a powerful method of promotion. Similarly, employment has started appearing in tourism today. Apart from tourism, the fields of dress designing, fashion technology, interior decoration, etc. is also getting forgotten through translation. The role of translation is important in the development of language. In this way, translation is really an effective means of uniting the human society, and in the concept of modernization, this sense of unity of human society lies in the economic context. 3.5 Translation as a means of employment. Today translation is proving to be very effective in the direction of livelihood. Senior or junior translator, strong interpreter, Hindi officer or Hindi teacher, professor, language director, deputy director, assistant director, official language officer, news reader, correspondent, editor, co-editor, deputy editor, assistant editor, advertisement writer, computer there are or can be appointments of translators on many posts like translator, bank, officer, etc. In central government or state government offices, in banks, in hospitals, in tourism, in parliament assemblies, in embassies, in the offices of newspapers and magazines, in academics, in publishing institutions, in government presses, radio, television, etc., advertising agencies sent campaign letters, petitioner organizations in teaching training, institutions, in offices related to science technology and technology, in translation bureaus, in universities, schools and public relations. Offices, in exhibitions, in museums, libraries. There is no doubt about the applicability and relevance of translation in many fields, in theatrical numbers, hives, market prices, in finance commerce and slow sector, in economics, in lexicology, in institutions that create terminologies and in literature etc. Lakhs of people are earning for their livelihood, earning a living by working through translation in these areas. Cinema has also become a huge platform for translation today. Many television channels are also running their programs today only through translation. Not only this, by opening private translation bureaus or agencies, services are also being provided to translate or make available works in languages of the country and abroad. Today, doctors, engineers, mass designers, interior decorators, architects, psychologists, builders, etc. are also working to expand their business on a large scale in the country and abroad through translation. Today, along with respect for translation work, the honorarium has also become respectable. Therefore, the relevance of the translation work done for self-pleasure has been doubtful. Now, the translation work done for selflessly for other help is also proving beneficial. If the translator has pure determination and does the work of translation with full devotion and dedication, then hundreds of organizations in the country and abroad are ready to give translation work to such ideal and standard translators. 3.6 Language technology and translation. Media is this magical force of today's era which can make green look hair grey-white and white-blue. This is the power that can make the general look special and the special look ordinary. India's supremacy in the field of technology and technology is increasing rapidly. The rapid socialization of the media and the ever-increasing impact of computerization on the public mind are at its root. In a multilingual country like India, computer education from abroad definitely terrorized with its English supremacy, but Indian talent and its linguistic powers and translation soon challenged this challenge. As a result, India's young-brained and experienced leadership answered information technology with language technology. Actually, language technology is a disciplinary subject whose background was formed from the information revolution of the late 20th century and due to the impact of globalization. The central component in this is language, which is derived from linguistics, while technology is basically a response to the demands of consumerist tendencies. This gives a sense of urgency to do something quickly. Significantly, the word technology is embedded in the word industry at the center, whose main objective is to produce that also on a large scale and in large quantities and in a short period of time. The ever-increasing needs of human society have made technology indispensable for human civilization. It should be freely accepted that if human civilization is claiming itself to be developed or developing, then a great deal of credit goes to the information revolution based entirely on technology. But it is to be noted that at the global level this information, the language of the revolution, has been English only. However, in the presence of numerous languages and dialects in different countries of the world, there are many linguistic barriers. For this reason, in today's era of information revolution, translation is playing a very meaningful role in establishing a close relationship with technology. Globalization of words, the meaning and science contained in it has become possible only through translation. The hunger to get instant and complete information and data related to the events and activities happening on the globe have intensified. Translation helps us a lot in satiating this hunger by promptly removing the language barrier. Translation creates a platform to communicate globally. We get to know about the new charisma of language technology only through translation. Therefore, in the era of language technology, the importance of translation has automatically increased. 3.7 Role of translation in the study of comparative literature. Study and research are the pinnacle achievements of the cognitive field today. Now the study and research of many languages of the world are being named each other. Every country is proving itself to each other's cognitive, scientific and creative literature. With this, a new dimension of comparative study of each other's literary, social and scientific material has opened up. Therefore, through comparative study at the national and international level, it becomes possible to compare different literary works etc. composed in one language with the works of other languages to reveal such characteristics that express the interrelationship of the literature of two languages. Through comparative literature, it is possible to identify and express the unity of literature. Dr. Nagendra has written in his book The Role of Comparative Literature that comparative literature is actually a type of interliterary study which takes many languages as the basis and whose purpose is research of unity in diversity. While doing a comparative study of the literatures of two languages, it constantly appears that through two languages virtually the same thinking, the same culture has been presented through two mediums of expression. The realization of the same ideological ground or the same life value in the conduct of different languages indicates that the difference between them is only of cover, not of spirit. Ramcharitmanas and Kritivasa Ramayana, Krishna devotion of Vidyapti, Tardas and Narsi Mehta, Hindi and Gujarati novels, Dinkar and Iqbal, Fanishwarnath Renu and Mishane Bhaddi, Hindi and Punjabi saint poetry, Hindi and Kannada bhakti movements. Mahadevi Verma and Balamani, Amma for example, comparative study and research has expanded in many directions. It is possible to reach the conclusions of all these literatures only through translation. Comparative study of literature and comparative research is possible only through translation. Today, translation has become a young means of comparative literature, which gives an understanding of the similarities and differences between two different languages. It is only through translation that new dimensions, new contexts and new directions are controlled in the comparative study of literature. Due to translation, the concept of comparative study of the literature of one nation one with the literature of other nations from the literature and literature of one language can take shape. It is only through translation that the vehicle of comparative study went from national to international. That is why we can compare writers like Maxim Gorky and Premchand, T.S. Eliot and Agnya, Ajra Pound and Nirala. In this context, it can be said that literary translation is necessary to provide a comprehensive perspective to comparative study. Otherwise, Aristotle, Plato, Socrates, Dante, Virgil, Maupassant, Tolstoy, Pushkin, Shakespeare, Rabindranath Tagore, Bankim Chandra Chatterjee, Nirala, Prasad Bhartendu etc. Probably without translation no one would have known outside except their country or their region. 3.8 Contribution of translation in national and world development. Today our nation and the entire world are wishing for international connectivity, harmony, coexistence and cooperation and are moving forward in that direction. Exchange of ideas in national languages and hundreds of languages of the world is possible only through translation. Through translation, we become familiar with the thoughts, social concerns and moral values of any society or nation. Due to this, other society and nation are introduced very closely, and as a result of this, there is an increase in goodwill towards each other. Only through this we get the best books of world literature. It forms a bridge between East and West and North and South countries, a link between the ancient and the new. The sublime feeling of considering this whole earth as one family is being developed all over the world only through translation. Due to translation, it is helping in spreading love, service, peace, harmony, friendship and universal integration in the whole world and nation. The best thinker, writer, politician, philosopher, scientist, journalist, teacher, etc. of every language of the world has this heartfelt desire that the whole world should be benefited by his achievements, his knowledge, his new establishments and discoveries. He could not stop and he could be situated on the world stage with the fame of his achievements. For this, he wants that his literature should be translated into many languages of the country and abroad, so that the whole world will be benefited. By realizing the concept of Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam, entire world is a family, destroying enmity, alienation, etc., connecting human beings and promoting the feeling of universal brotherhood is the ultimate goal of translation. In present times, translation work has become important for the new information of art, literature, culture, knowledge, science, information technology, entertainment, sports, etc. at the national and global level. In fact, translation can be called a language of the whole world, this language of bringing human closer to human. Establishing dialogue, breaking the silence, works to realize the feeling of world family. Translation is important in the direction of connecting to countries, to states, to units, to cultures, to languages, to ideas, to value systems, and to religions, to communities, which can be seen in the national and global scenario. 3.9 Let us sum up. In this unit you have read that how translation is becoming important in the national and global scenario today. Apart from the literary field, knowledge science, administration, information technology, business, journalism, research, defense, law, justice, art, culture, medicine, mass communication, language technology, communication media, etc. have become in various fields. Similarly, it has become a useful and necessary discipline for comparative literature, for sociological studies, for the revival of historical cultural works. In this era of information technology, the world has come under our grasp. The importance of translation work is increasing day by day in strengthening and popularizing mass media. Now, man with his intellectual capacity is completing the translation work through machines. Today, translation is being used for mutual contact in many communication mediums, from artificial satellites moving in space to the entire Earth. Today, no one in our country or in the whole world can think of moving forward only by their own language. Somewhere he has to resort to translation. Today, translation has become the main means of employment all over the world. It has become important not only in literary form but in every field of business or employment. It is only through translation that we establish the prestige of human values and social cultural coordination in the whole world. In this way, the importance of translation has been reflected in every areas of life. In this way, It can be said that in translation has become important in both the national and global perspectives. Thank you for watching. We will see you in the next video with next chapter.